We want to enjoy our winter camping experiences without worrying about our health or damage to our rig. But cold weather causes a buildup of moisture, which can actually turn into mold. So we've changed our camping patterns when the weather gets cold. Here are 5 things that we do now. I'm going to tell you what we do and why they work. But first, I want to admit to you that science was not my favorite subject in school. But it is handy to talk about a couple of things right now, like what is condensation? Condensation happens when matter changes from a gas to a liquid. In an RV, what you're going to see most often is when that vapor turns into a liquid and it forms on a cold surface like a cold window, and water droplets form. This is a bigger problem in the winter because in the summertime, when the air is warmer, the air is less dense and it has the ability to hold more moisture before that moisture turns into water droplets. In the wintertime, because the air is more dense, it is going to hold less moisture. And so when you hear a weather forecaster on TV talk about weather reaching its dew point, it means that the air is saturated enough that it cannot hold any more moisture and it's got to release that moisture in some way. So that's what we're dealing with when we have moisture forming inside our rigs. The one thing you really want to be aware of are the hidden problems that are really hard to see. So keep an eye on all of your closed areas that are like in your closets, in your cabinets, in your basement compartments, in all of your storage compartments. Those closed, dark places are places where moisture and mold can begin to form, and it can get away from you before you know it because you just don't realize that it's there. If you don't see or you ignore water droplets that begin forming in your ceiling, your roof, your walls, your floors, they can begin to cause major problems for you. Once mold and mildew start to grow, it can cause health problems for you and a lot of damage to your rig as well. It has the ability to eat away at wooden and metal structures, so it can be very corrosive. Some of the most common areas where people have problems and they don't realize it until it's too late are places like your curtains and your fabrics on your cushions, your couches, that kind of thing. But also one of the biggest spots is under the mattress, between the bottom of the mattress and the bed platform. That is one really common area where people will have mold growing and they won't even realize it. It's just not a thing that you pick up and see underneath very often. So it's easy to understand why that one can be a problem area that's just not usually found. When you're checking those areas, you just want to make sure that everything is clean and dry. You also want to monitor the humidity levels inside your rig so you are aware when you have high levels that you need to be drying things out and not letting a problem begin to build over time. We have a device that gives us outside and inside air temperature as well as humidity levels, and it has 2 sensors. One sensor is actually on the display itself, and that one is going to tell us what our humidity levels are inside our rig. The other one, we can place it pretty much anywhere we want. So we normally have that outside in the summertime, and we have it in a shaded spot somewhere usually underneath our rig, and so that we have an accurate reading of what the outside air temperature is. So there are 2 ways that moisture can actually get inside your rig. It can actually be generated inside your rig, or it can find its way inside from the outside. If you do have leaks in your roof, or if you have seals that are not sealed properly, then there is a potential for moisture to travel into your rig on the inside from the outside. But the majority of the moisture that you're going to find inside your rig is actually generated inside your rig. Here are the 5 ways that we prevent moisture from being in our rig. Number 1 is circulation and ventilation. It's a really good idea to keep the air circulated so that you have a constant temperature throughout your rig. That includes in your cabinets and in your closets, those closed off spaces. When you keep that temperature constant throughout, then you don't have cold pockets forming where the air is more dense and can't hold as much moisture, and suddenly you've got moisture accumulating in areas that maybe you won't be able to see. In the wintertime, obviously, when you want to try to keep the warm air in and the cold air out, you're keeping your windows and your vents closed as much as possible, but that also prevents circulation. So anytime you begin to have a buildup of moisture inside your rig, you actually want to open your vents and your windows, and you want to circulate that air and use an extractor fan. You want to blow that moisture out as fast as you can. Obviously, that has a negative side effect, which is you're letting cold air in. So just try to cover up with some wool blankets. Anytime we're talking about fabrics, wool is a better option than cotton in the wintertime because cotton actually absorbs moisture and wool does not. Number 2, you want to manage your kitchen and your bathroom activities. Showering, cooking, and washing dishes are the 3 biggest moisture-producing activities you will do inside your rig. Some of the solutions that are going to help you with showering might include if you are in an RV park and there is a public restroom, you might want to take your showers in those public areas. Personally, one of the reasons that I love having an RV is that I've got my own bathroom, and so that's an option that even if it were available for me, I wouldn't want to use that one. And also, we don't really have that option very often because we're boondockers and we are hardly ever in an RV park anyway. So one good thing to do when you are using your own shower is to preheat your shower. I like to use a space heater to heat up the space just inside the bathroom itself before I go in there to take a shower. Whether it be summertime or wintertime, after we finish taking our showers, we actually squeegee the walls and the floor of the shower, and then we wipe it down so it's completely dry inside. That's a really good thing to do in the wintertime. In the summertime, though, we just hang that wet or damp towel on our towel rack inside the bathroom and just let it dry. In the wintertime, though, you want to get that thing out of your rig because that's just there. It's just moisture hanging there. So when you have the option, take that thing outside. It's a great idea to just put it in a sunny or like a breezy spot. If the daytime temperatures are above freezing, just let that dry out there. You can also dry things around a campfire, or you can put them in your tow vehicle. You just want to get them outside of your RV if you can. And also make sure that you use your exhaust fan in your bathroom after you shower, and so that the air and the walls in there get dried off as fast as possible. When you are cooking, no matter what cooking method you use, you are going to be producing a ton of moisture inside your rig, especially if you're doing something like you're cooking in an Instant Pot and you do a pressure release. That creates a ton of moisture inside your rig. You want to wipe down any surface that you see that has moisture on it after you're done cooking. But when possible, you might want to think about cooking outside. I think it's a really great option. I personally love cooking over a campfire. Some people might actually wonder if I'm a pyromaniac. I love campfires so much, but I'm not. But it's a great way to keep yourself warm, your body warm, and you're actually like RVing, so you want to be outside and enjoy the outdoors anyway, and then you can keep all of your liquids and all of the moisture that you're producing from cooking, you can keep all of that outside your rig that way. The other thing I like to do is if I am doing slow cooker or Instant Pot pressure cooker recipes, instead of actually leaving that appliance inside and letting it cook inside, I do it outside. We bring out a small little table and we place the table really close to one of our exterior outlets and then just plug the appliance in and let the thing cook outside. For me, that does two things. One, it keeps the moisture outside, but it also keeps the odors outside. So you know how it is when you're cooking and everything smells really good, and then like, a couple hours later you walk into that same smell and you're like, oh my gosh. So I would prefer to have a fresher scent inside. It's a really nice twofer to be able to get the moisture out and the odors out to be able to cook outside. But I do want to caution you, a lot of manufacturers of those kinds of pieces of kitchen gear, they do not approve of using them with extension cords. So you want to have your equipment plugged in as close as possible to your outlet. Make sure your table is super stable and it's not going to tip over, and just use it so that the cord is directly plugged into your outlet and you're not using an extension cord. Once you're finished with dinner and it's time to wash your dishes, you want to wash your dishes and then you want to dry them right away. In the summertime, I actually just let my stuff air dry, and I've got a mat that collects all of that moisture right on the countertop. Well, in the wintertime, I don't want to do that. I actually want to dry that stuff, put the dishes away, and then any kind of wet drying mat or towels or dish rags, dishcloths, whatever, I want to get them outside of the rig as soon as possible. Number 3, you want to prevent moisture from entering in the first place. We always use our onboard propane heater as our first choice to heat the inside of our rig. You want to avoid using portable propane heaters inside your rig if at all possible. And Pete mentioned this when we had talked in our winter camping video earlier. It was all about that propane heat requires combustion, and combustion generates moisture. The reason that you can use your onboard propane heater, and you probably don't want to use a portable propane heater inside, is that the combustion process happens outside of the rig with your onboard heater. When you bring in one of those little portable propane heaters and you bring it in inside, then the combustion is actually happening inside your living area, and that is where the moisture is being produced. Versus when you're using your onboard heater, the moisture is being produced in an exterior compartment, so it's not causing moisture and condensation inside your rig. If you haven't seen our camping in cold weather video, I will leave a link for that in the description below. The other thing that you can do is spend time outside. You know that old joke about take a mirror and put it under somebody's nose because you want to see if they're still alive, to see if they're breathing? Well, the reason for that, obviously, is that when we breathe, we produce moisture. That's how you fog up a mirror. So if you have the ability to spend time outside instead of inside, you want to do that. You want to spend as much time in the outside and producing less moisture inside as much as possible. There are 2 ways to keep wet clothes out of your camper. One is that if you get stuck in rain or snow or whatever outside, you want to leave your wet coats and shoes and socks and all that kind of stuff outside of your rig before you bring it in. You want to let it dry outside before you bring it in. The other way that clothes tend to bring moisture into your rig is if you go to a laundry facility and you don't fully dry your clothes, you're bringing that moisture in with you. So you want to make sure that if you're using a laundry facility, make sure your stuff is completely dry before you bring it home. You might have the option also to choose where you're going to camp. So in Arizona, we see a lot of snowbirds in the wintertime. So snowbirds tend to go to Florida or to Arizona. If you have the choice to choose between a wet or a dry climate, you want to choose that dry climate versus a climate that has high humidity, and you're going to be fighting that moisture just because Mother Nature has it there. Number 4, you want to absorb any excess moisture. Personally, my choice is to use a clean cloth and just wipe down damp surfaces. And I can say that because we are mainly in Arizona and we don't have to fight the moisture as much as people do that are in colder and wetter climates. So If you are in a more challenging situation, you might want to think about getting a little portable electric dehumidifier. They are small enough to carry around and not be too much of a nuisance, especially if it's a problem that you fight on a more regular basis and it's a more challenging situation. The other thing that a lot of people do is they use damp rid. And all you do is take the bucket and set it inside your rig, lift off the lid, and those crystals will start to absorb moisture. Once those crystals are fully dissolved, you just throw the bucket away. It's super simple. I've also heard of people using rock salt and just putting rock salt in a bowl, and that is supposed to absorb moisture from the air. I've heard that that is possibly corrosive to RVs. So if we were in a situation where we needed a little bit more help, that would be an option that I would not choose, but I know that some people do use that as well. Number 5 is probably one of the biggest things that seems to be overlooked, and that is it is so essential to regularly inspect the nooks and crannies of your rig. You want to find a problem before a problem gets too big. So you're looking for things like, obviously, mold, but just even things like a little bit of water damage. You're looking for things like warped wood or peeling paint or peeling wallpaper off the wall. You're looking for anything that is a sign that there is moisture there. It might be behind a surface, like your wallpaper. Whatever it is, you need to keep an eye out for it and make sure that you're looking in all those dark little nooks and crannies. Clean out your closet every once in a while and make sure that you are addressing any issue as soon as you see it. You don't want to let that mold grow. Make sure that you seal any gaps or cracks in your exterior, especially your roof. And also make sure that all of your vents are working properly. I hope you have a pleasantly dry Christmas camping experience. And check out my Vlogmas series where we're counting down to Christmas RV style. I'll leave a link for the entire playlist in the description below, and I'll see you tomorrow.